Because you thought the same thing I did when I said Post Malone. Like, yeah, I don't know if I want food related with that.
Cigarette ash and Bud Lights.
Post Malone Oreos. You in, Rashad?
What are we talking about here?
Post Malone Oreos. Swirled salted caramel and shortbread flavored cream.
That sounds rather tasty. I'm not.
It does. It does.
Yeah, that sounds pretty.
Not what I thought Posty would have gone with, but I don't know what I do think he would have gone with. You should look up
the packaging too. The packaging is pretty cool. I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, I'll definitely try it.
Not bad at all. Sounds good.
The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Ordinarily joins us on Thursdays, but he's a working man, ladies and gentlemen. He's out there hustling, trying to make the paper, trying to get the bag. So he had to push this off till Friday, but still kind enough to come by and spend some time talking football. The host of the Panther Nation podcast, my guy, Rashad Beard, in the house. What's up, big fella?
What's going on, man? I'm feeling good. Well, I'm not feeling so great, man. The NFL honors, no Panthers in the Hall of Fame, got me a little down. I'm not going to lie. It got me a little down.
Yeah, I think Zoe and we talked about this earlier in the show, and I kind of want your thoughts on it. I think Luke Kuechly is absolutely Hall of Fame caliber. I'm not fighting that. But I also know that the folks in charge of the HOF, they want to protect that first ballot Hall of Famer label, right? Like the first ballot Hall of Famer is like the Hall of Fame of Hall of Famers, I think. And I think even though it was a good decision, even though at least but I think all of us supported Luke Kuechly's decision to walk away, and for the reason that he did it, I think if Luke Kuechly had like 4 or 5 more years in the league playing at that level, he would have been a first ballot guy. But because his career was shortened, fair or not, I think that was the Hall of Fame just protecting that first ballot Hall of Fame label.
Yeah. I just think that, Luke he should be rewarded for making that decision to cut his career early. He obviously dealing with the concussions. I saw one of the scariest things I've ever seen on the field when he collapsed. It's really, really scary back in the day. And so, man, he's a great player, one of the greatest probably the greatest middle linebacker of all time, dare I say. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. This class is cool. Shout out to Jared Allen, former Panther. I know he's a long-time Viking, but he did play for the Panthers when we went to the Super Bowl in 2015.
He's also a Chief. So
I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Yeah,
that.
He was.
I don't remember that.
But since I also root for the Panthers, he started his career with the Chiefs and ended it with the Panthers. I was okay with that.
Yeah, he great. Jared Allen's a good guy, and again was on that Super Bowl squad back in 2015. So I don't want to take anything away from Jared Allen. Glad that he got in, well deserved. But Luke Kuechly should absolutely be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I get what you're saying, Rob, but I don't like it. I know he will get in eventually. Same with Smitty. Smitty deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I understand it. The wide receivers, you got to wait. I get it. He should also be in. Triple Crown winner. You should be in the Hall of Fame. And so now got Greg Olsen coming up next. I don't know, debatable there, but shout out to all my Panthers finally getting an opportunity to submit some legacies in the Hall of Fame, and I'm excited for it.
Who gets in first out of those 3?
Oh, Luke absolutely is getting in first. I think Smitty's going to have to wait a little bit. That's just the name of the game for the wide receivers. It's unfortunate. I believe he's the greatest Panther of all time, and should act. I see he's right there over my shoulder right here. He's always watching me when I'm potting. So I believe he's the greatest Panther of all time. Should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. He's just going to have to wait on it, unfortunately. That wide receiver position is loaded. It's backloaded. They got to wait a long time, and so he'll get in eventually, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. Wholeheartedly. Rashad Beard from the Panther Nation podcast joining us here on the show. Go ahead and either nip this in the bud for me, Rashad, or go ahead and gas Lonzo up so I got to deal with him for the back 2 hours of the show and my day. Cooper Kupp on the block. Lonzo's out here campaigning for the Panthers to go make a move to bring Cooper Kupp, partner him up with XL and Xavier Legette. XL and Adam Thielen, who announced yesterday he's coming back. That's not the move for me. You've already got Cooper Kupp in Adam Thielen, so unless you're moving him, I don't see the move for that. You got two of the same old white guy receivers there. I think you're better served to still work on going to find that over-the-top number one. That's not the move.
Yeah, I like Kupp. I think he's very talented. I just don't think he's the best fit for the Panthers and what we're trying to do. I think we need to get younger at the wide receiver position. I think you got Adam Thielen getting ready to after every season he's talking about retiring. And Kupp is I mean, he hasn't. When is the last time he played a full season? Right, he's always banged up. Not really. That's not what I'm looking for, man. I want us to get younger, more talented, and I like Kupp a lot though. I think the Chiefs maybe should go after him, man. What do you think about that?
By the way, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if you think of the progression that Bryce Young had near the end of the season, when he was continually improving, you give him another veteran receiver who actually catches the ball. And you're right, he gets hurt a lot. But when he's out there, he's reliable. You throw the ball at him, he's going to catch the ball. And you sprinkle in some rookies around him. This is not a long-term thing. This is just a short-term thing to help with Bryce's confidence. And then you have two guys out there for sure in Thielen and Cooper Kupp who are going to catch the ball every time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm still against it. That wasn't enough for me. So you got a little bit stronger argument. Maybe I would have flipped my mind, but that's not it, man. I got guys like Jalen Coker, who can catch the football. He's one of the ones that can actually catch. So let him develop. You know what I mean? And I think we're going to be active in free agency. I think we can do better than Cooper Kupp when we're talking about adding veteran talent to this wide receiver room.
What if the Panthers don't and they end up with Cooper Kupp?
I mean, of course, then if he's a Panther, then I'm going to support him.
That's how
it is.
I'm not saying like he's a consolation. I'm just saying he's also not a scrub.
No,
and I get he's older, but again, reliability. I think you want to continue Bryce Young's continuing confidence that he's getting, and I think adding another short-handed receiver would help.
Yeah, I agree. Really quick, I don't want to short sell Cooper Kupp's talent because he is talented. I just think we can do better than a Cooper Kupp if we're aiming to get better. Let's go get really better and not just a consolation prize for Cooper Kupp just because he's available. Let's go
Higgins.
Thank you. Go get T. Higgins. Go get Garrett Wilson. Go really get better, and then let's talk. I don't want to just settle for.
By the way, both those guys would be awesome for the Panthers, but do they want to come there? That's the thing.
Yes, I think they will. The tide is turning in Carolina. Guys are going to want to come. You have a quarterback now. Things are changing. We're not the Saints. I mean, people are going to want to come.
I'm trying to be nice right now, Rashad. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessarily entirely.
I can continue the interview if you like.
Oh, God. All right. Let's get to other things. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Bryce Young was on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams the other day, did an interview, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the whole thing, phenomenal sit down, like this kid a lot, but was asked about his relationship with Dan Morgan as the general manager, says that he has a, quote, very open line of communication, end quote, went on to say, quote, he's always asking me stuff. He wants me to send him things and give my opinion, which I'm super grateful for. I'm not saying that we didn't have that with Fitterer in his time as GM, Rashad Beard, but you didn't have that with Scott Fitterer in GM. You didn't have guys coming out and going, we got communication, we're talking, we're interacting, whatever. I might just be optimistic in all this, but it feels to me like the front office's relationship with the players is different. And as long as this is the BY that's out there and out front, I kind of feel like you're trending the right direction.
Yeah, and that's the positive you get when you have a player's a GM that's a former player, right? When you have a GM that can actually relate to your plight and understand your struggles, that's a huge plus. And Dan Morgan, he's a very open guy. He seems to be very like, all right, I'm telling the truth. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And for him to have that open line of communication with Morgan is great because guess what? Bryce knows what he needs to be successful, right? So if he's actually taken into account what Bryce's opinion is on what he needs, that's a great thing. And it appears, and again, it's early. We're only in year one going into year two into this thing, but it appears that everybody seems to be on the same page with this thing. So I like Dan Morgan. I like what he's been doing. I think we still need to see what his drafts are going to look like. But I love the interview, and I think that all the good things were said, and I don't expect anything less from Bryce Young.
I don't disagree with that at all. By the way, he was also on the Dan Patrick show yesterday, and that was a good one too. I think for me, and I know like even in the off season, Bryce Young is dominating the conversation about the Panthers, which makes sense. It's quarterback league, unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley, but there ain't but one of those guys. I think the fact that not just are the Cats sending Bryce Young out there as the face of the program, but he's going out there, he's being a good ambassador. But more than that, Rashad Beard, when he talks about the team, it feels genuine. It feels like he's being straight up legit. That seems to be who Bryce Young has been all these years. And it just feels like overwhelming positivity as opposed to, coached positivity, forced positivity, whatever. Like I said, I'm probably being a silver lining optimist here, but the way that this guy is talking about the team, talking about Morgan, talking about Canales, talking about the development of the franchise, and being so genuine about it, man, I'm bought in right now.
Well, I think Bryce is rather polished. He's not one of those guys going to go out there and just, vomit at the mouth regarding the Panthers and say bad things. He's not that guy, right? He's very polished. He's very intentional in what he says publicly. He's not going to say anything disparaging. You're never going to hear Bryce Young say anything negative. So I take some of that with a grain of salt. He's just being himself, obviously, but at the same time, it's very polished. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't look to Bryce Young for these groundbreaking, these moments where he's spilling the tea and he's saying these things, because he's not going to do that. But it is good to hear. It's good to hear your quarterback be a beacon of light for your team and put that franchise on his back as he's going out there publicly speaking. We haven't had that around here in a long time since, i.e. Cam Newton. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Good things to have. A good thing to have in Bryce Young, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy that his turnaround is he's able to go out there and talk about his turnaround, and because it was great. It's the greatest turnaround of all time in a single season.
Rashad Beard joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. He is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. Usually joins us on Thursday, kind enough to give us some time on Friday. All right, big fella, can't let you out of here without talking about the Super Bowl down in New Orleans. And I know that last year when we got to this point, it was when we got the incredible clip of certified hater mode because you just refused to say anything about anybody that's not Carolina. And I respect it. All right. I respect the passion. That being said,
that's not what he did. He rooted for Kansas City, and he mentioned Swifties a couple of times. You're leaving that part out. I don't know why you're doing that.
To protect Rashad's image. Who you got?
Yeah, you mischaracterized certified hater mode. Certified hater mode is cheering against any former Carolina Panther. That's what I did, right? So I was very strategic in my hate actions. Okay, this year, there is nobody to hate against. Harrison Butker gets a pass. You know what I mean? He's a kicker. He gets a pass. This year, I can freely watch the Super Bowl and just enjoy. And I don't really have a choice in the matter. Do I have an opinion on who's going to win? Yeah, I do think the Chiefs are going to win it. I think the Chiefs are going to go out there and beat the Eagles. I don't think I think if you slow down Saquon a little bit, I think they're going to have some troubles. I know Hurts is capable, but I think if you slow down Saquon just a tad, and Mahomes is him. You know what I mean? I think Mahomes is always going to find a way, no matter what, no matter the situation. You got Patrick Mahomes. And I think he's going to pull it out. Three-peat. Shout to the Chiefs.
Who's the MVP? Mahomes?
Absolutely. Who else?
That's what I said. I don't see how anybody. I mean, listen, if they get a three-peat and he's that guy and he's the face of the league, and I don't think the only offensive player I think that could win it that's not Mahomes would be Kareem Hunt, but he's going to have to go for like $175 and 3 tutties if he's going to take it away. If Mahomes has 220 and a couple of touchdown passes, he's winning this thing.
And shout out to the Chiefs defense. I don't think they get enough credit. Obviously, you got Patrick Mahomes, who's one of the greatest of all time already, early into his career. But the Chiefs defense is really, really good. And I think that it's going to be a challenge for them to slow down Saquon, but they're going to do their part. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to get all the glory because it's a quarterback league, right? But that defense is really good. And I think it's going to be, a tough challenge to slow down Saquon, but they got to make it happen.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say George Karlaftis wins the MVP.
Bro, he's like 29-1. I'm not saying that's not.
Have you seen how he's been playing?
I also have Rashad Beard.
Several sacks.
I also have a bet on both defenses to score a touchdown, which pays out. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think everybody's locked in on Mahomes, everybody's locked in on Hurts, and we're pretending like these aren't two of the top 4 defenses in the NFL slugging it out against each other.
Very true. Eagles defense is very good as well. So it's going to be a good matchup. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be very good, a good watch, especially for me since I don't have to cheer against any former Carolina fan.
Certified hater mode. How hard does Kendrick go in on Drake at the halftime show?
Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath, man. Kendrick Lamar, it's that matchup might be better than the game.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, can you answer the question of that last person of the Rob Smith?
Guys, real quick, my wife is calling me. I gotta
see you, buddy.
Okay, see you.
Yeah. I'm not hating on that. Later on, that's Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. He joins us on Thursdays. I'm gonna go ahead and take him off the stream so we don't have to listen to him talk to his wife too. Because I'm a good friend like that, Rashad. I wouldn't just start slinging bleep at you in the middle of an interview. That would be rude. Who would do such a thing?
Well, now I have to check if Kendrick Lamar is actually taller than Bryce Young because I am curious. Listen. Someone on the stream asked that question.
Listen, I once had a guy from Arizona tell me that Bryce Young's 6'9".
Yeah. Well, but still, that will go down in my memory forever.
Final hour of the show is all Super Bowl LIX coverage. Lonzo and I are giving you our final scores and predictions, give you our MVP picks, give you our rundown of the game, front to back, top to left, up and down, bottom to top. And that's coming up in the final hour after Lonzo does the sports flash.
Wow. Deontay says Bryce is taller. How short is Kendrick Lamar? The NFL handed out its season awards last night and announced its 2025 Hall of Fame class. The most valuable player award went to Bills quarterback Josh Allen, whatever. While Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell won Coach of the Year, the Rams' Jared Verse won Defensive Rookie of the Year, while Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels won on the offensive side. Joe Burrow is the Comeback Player of the Year. Saquon Barkley, who should have been the MVP, is Offensive Player of the Year. And Patrick Surtain II is Defensive Player of the Year. Tight end Antonio Gates. Hey, listen, I didn't like him because he played for the Chargers. Cornerback Eric Allen, defensive end Jared Allen, and wide receiver Sterling Sharp headlined the smallest Hall of Fame class since 2005. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. as Furman Paladins take on the Chattanooga Mocs. Furman versus Chattanooga right here when you're home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan Upstate. All right, I'm gonna have to research it because it's now really important to me. Wow. 5-5. So now I'm gonna be watching a halftime show and see if Kendrick surrounds himself with shorter people, like what Tom Cruise does in his movies, to make himself look taller. So he makes sure that everybody around him is like around the same height. I think Sylvester Stallone does that too. even if the Chiefs do lose this weekend, I'm guessing Taylor Swift will still be okay. She more than likely would be very consoling. By the way, while you were away, we looked it up. To confirm, Kendrick Lamar is 5'5". So
okay, he's 5'5".
Yeah, and so now you also can be watching the halftime show and see if he surrounds himself with shorter people, because that's what Tom Cruise does. That's what Sylvester Stallone does. It's what a bunch of the big name movie guys do. I don't think it matters as much with musicians, does it? Although you probably don't want.
It'll be interesting
to be surrounded by 6'2" dancers.
Right. It'll be interesting if he starts when he starts bringing out whoever he's going to start bringing out. Because Wayne ain't tall either. But if Wayne comes out and dwarfs him by 4 inches,
didn't he already say he's not coming?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
He's probably ticked off, to be honest.
Yeah,
that it ain't his show in New Orleans.
I hated Antonio Gates, but this is strictly from a fan standpoint because they kept comparing him to Tony Gonzalez. Same reason why I hated Shannon Sharp, because to me during that time, Tony Gonzalez was the best tight end in football. And back then, the tight ends didn't like each other, and they actually would beef some and stuff.
Yeah.
Now there's tight end U, and all the guys hang out and everything. So is it better back in the day when there's a lot of hatred, or is it better now when there's camaraderie?
Gates' GOAT tight end. He's on my list. I would say Gates.
By the way, he was great.
He was great.
But Gonzalez was better. And Kelsey's better than all of them. Definitely better than Mr. 69.
Final hour of the Rob Brown Show. On a Friday goes now. Final hour of the show is all about Super Bowl LIX going down this weekend in New Orleans, Louisiana. The Eagles trying to prevent the Kansas City Chiefs from becoming the first team in the history of the National Football League to three-peat. The Kansas City Chiefs trying to enshrine themselves even further in the annals of NFL history. So let's talk about it. Let me start with a question to the listening audience, to the Armada, to the folks that are joining us on the live stream, and to the great one, Lonzo, a man of the people, and see what he thinks. Just about every conversation that has gone down about the Eagles so far has featured one of two people. Jalen Carter on the defensive side of the football, Saquon Barkley on the offensive side of the football. We have talked about Jalen Hurts. It is circled back around to Saquon Barkley. We have talked about the Eagles' defensive backfield, which is very good, but I have credited that in large part to Jalen Carter, to Josh Sweat, to the edge rushers of the Eagles' defensive front seven. Here is my question. does it come across as lazy to lean on those people? Does it come across as lazy that it feels like every Eagles discussion circles back around to Saquon and circles back around primarily to Jalen Carter, but to the Eagles defensive front seven? Does it sound like, when those conversations continue returning to those guys, does it sound like it is lazy analysis? And the reason I ask you is this, because on one hand, I get that that's problematic for me. If you are tuning into this program looking for excellent Super Bowl LIX coverage, I will begin by saying you're absolutely getting it. But if you tune in and you listen and you go, hey, every time they talk Eagles, they talk Saquon and Jalen Carter, how lazy is this guy? That is problematic for me. Yet, great one, I make the argument that I don't think you have a choice. Because I think that's what this Super Bowl is about, honestly. Like, to me, the Chiefs are going to do what the Chiefs are going to do. The Chiefs are going to do what the Chiefs have done all year long. On the offensive side of the ball, they're not this year. They're not explosive.
They haven't been.
They don't have to be.
Yeah, they haven't been, for sure. Doesn't mean they're not capable of it. They just haven't been. They haven't had to be.
They haven't had to be. So the Chiefs, now, will they? Can they? Let's start with this, because we have talked about the fact that I believe, but I think we believe that the Chiefs coming into the 2024 season, it just felt as if the playoffs were an inevitability for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, they're going. The question is, would anybody compete in the division? And the answer always felt like no. I mean, the Broncos didn't feel like a threat, although they ended up being better than at least I thought they were going to be under Captain Checkdown Bo Nix, who, by the way, was up for a Rookie of the Year award last night. Of course, they're never going to win it because Jaden Daniels is him. But they were better than I thought. And even being better than I thought, dramatically better than I thought, they weren't competition. There was a question mark about whether the LA Chargers under Jim Harbaugh in year one would be competition. And they were better than I thought. J.K. Dobbins was a comeback player of the year finalist last year. Justin Herbert, statistically speaking, had an excellent year up until the playoffs. They weren't a competition. And then there's the Raiders. And then there's the Raiders. So no. That being said, the question mark was anybody going to compete in the division, or were they just locked in? And would they be a 1 seed? Not would they get in, but where would they get in? And therefore, I think the Chiefs were kind of able to never have to really go full afterburner. Never have to get deep into the bag, never have to break out anything fancy. It's not to say that they didn't occasionally throw a trick play out there with a Xavier Worthy with the talent, or lean in every now and then on developing some Kelsey passing patterns to kind of keep him in the loop. But they never really had to get explosive. And so therefore, I think it's a fair question to say, if the Philadelphia Eagles can keep this a very close game late into the game, does there come a point where the Chiefs go, okay, they're hanging around, they're going score for score, or perhaps more impactful, they're not going score for score, nobody is scoring. It's a low-scoring game. I'm going under. I lock the, I am waiting to lock in the under until kickoff because, again, I think the casual bettors are going to drive that total up to closer to 50. It was opened at 49.5. It dropped to 48.5. So if you want the over, if you want the over, grab it now because it is going to go up on Sunday. If you want the under, wait it out with me. because I do think it is going to go up by Sunday. So, to me, this could end up being a very low score game. And my question mark is at this point, if it is indeed a fourth quarter, low scoring game, a lot of field goals, maybe lots of punts, which is a possibility. By the way, I do believe the Chiefs have the edge in the punt game for what that's worth. If it comes down to that, and they're having a hard time finding the end zone, can the Chiefs be explosive? Something they haven't had to do and therefore haven't done all year. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's because they aren't explosive this year. I don't know. I don't know if they have it in them because we haven't seen it, but I also don't think there have been too many spots where they've had to be, because I think even in the games that were one-score games in the fourth quarter, which were most of them, it feels like, even in those one-score games, very few of them, maybe like 2 or 3, did I have that game on in the Bro Cave and go, Chiefs are in trouble. It just always felt like, no, they're going to do just enough. It's what they do.
This was, I think, one of the best coaching seasons Andy Reid has ever done, because they lost all their big-name receivers when they in the first few weeks. They lost Pacheco. They lost their offense. All that was left was Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And then they bring in Kareem Hunt, who was on the couch. They start bringing in guys because people want to come there and they want to play. If you remember, Hollywood Brown wasn't playing because he got injured in preseason. I think the offense did what it had to do to win. The defense carried the team because the entire offense was hurt. They had to shuffle their offensive line because they were hurt or injured. Near the end of the season, they started getting people back. This is the best the Chiefs have been physically since before week 1, since preseason. They've gotten stronger. They've gotten better. They've learned how to win with all their most of their big names down. And now I've just checked because I was curious. Sky Moore still on the injured, but they could bring him back this week. I don't know if they've done that yet or if it's too late, but he's the only one on the injured, not the injured reserve, but on injured list,
report.
The injured list for the Chiefs. Everybody else is kind of, it's downgraded to hurt, but not, not questionable or anything. So the Chiefs have managed to get better every single week without their big guys. Then those guys came in and instantly were integrated into all that. This is the best Chiefs team they've had in a while.
It's the healthiest Chiefs team.
I think it's the best they've had in a while.
I mean, best is fine if we are talking on paper. There is also obviously.
I'm talking about talent-wise.
You think this Chiefs team talent-wise is on par with the?
Yes, I think it's better than the last couple for sure.
Better than the Tyreek Chiefs?
That's one guy they're missing. One guy.
I'm talking about overall.
And what did Tyreek do when he went other places? He didn't do anything. Okay. So, and they replaced him, even though they weren't supposed to be able to do anything without him. And they won the Super Bowl last year. He's like a distant memory. This is the best Chiefs team that I've seen.
I don't know that I can go with you on that. I can go with you on this is the best the Chiefs roster has been this year because, as you pointed out, everybody's back. Everybody's healthy. Everybody seems to be good to go.
On the other teams that they won the Super Bowl with, why were they better?
I just think you had more talent at different positions.
But like who? Honey Badger isn't there. They've lost a couple of defenders, but then they brought along rookies who have done just as well.
I'm not saying it's like clear cut. I'm not saying it's like, oh, definitely the 2022
I am not trying to be combative, and I'm not trying to be over the top.
Well, you are, okay?
Okay. Well, I'm not. To me, this is the best Chiefs team.
Fair enough. Okay.
It doesn't mean they'll win Sunday, but it is the best, and especially the best this season.
I will certainly, I'll be willing to, for the sake of the fact that it is still this season, we can address it as the best it's been this season, because this season's all that matters. Okay, so with this team being all that matters so far this year, my take right now would be this. The Chiefs have not been explosive offensively at any point this season. That is why Patrick Mahomes was not up for any awards last night. The question mark is that because they can't be? Or is that because they haven't felt the need to be? And I don't think it's unfair to say none of us know the answer to that question.
I think it's a little bit of both, especially early on. I think it was that's what they had to do to win because of all the injuries. And a lot of other teams with all those injuries, they're done. And you think about what a big part of the offense Isaiah Pacheco was. And he goes down, and it's like, oh, no. I mean, at least for me, I'm thinking, oh, man, they are in trouble. And they go and get Kareem Hunt. And he had the kind of season he had. He didn't have 1,000 yards. I think he had like 768 or something like that. But still, that's pretty good.
Not disagreeing. Again, I think it is. I think it is. And this is what we do on the show. So it obviously makes sense. We can speculate on the answer of, is it because the Chiefs never had to be explosive? Is it because the Chiefs, due to the injuries, could not be explosive? Or is it that the Chiefs never felt the need to be explosive? All right,
let me ask. Are the Eagles explosive on offense?
Saquon Barkley's explosive on offense.
See? And what are the Chiefs?
The answer is yes. Saquon Barkley averages like 45 yards a touchdown.
And the Chiefs have went back by necessity or because they want to. They've been more of a running team and a dink and dunk team. So they're not going to look like an explosive offense because that's not how they're playing.
Right. But
they haven't had to.
My point here is, and that is the question that I'm asking. Is the failure of the Chiefs to score 30 points in a game one time on the season, is that because they couldn't be explosive, didn't want to be explosive, never had to be explosive? And I don't know the answer to that. Nobody knows the answer to that.
And also a couple of those games, if I recall correctly, which I might not because I'm old, they had a chance to score a little more late and they didn't.
Sure.
They just kind of kneel it down and let the game go.
I mean, in the wins where, they got to 24, but, because they are a defensive team without a doubt, they were holding teams to 10. Yeah, there's no need for that. But there were some close games on that docket. I go back to the Atlanta game, a game that I will say you won because of a missed call. Flat out, unquestioned, not a question. I don't hear an argument there. You got away with one.
I am curious,
in the last play of that game.
Did any other team this season have a missed call that helped them win a game?
As Chris Sims said yesterday, no other team's playing this weekend, so I don't care. Okay? I don't care. You got away with one in Atlanta. Flat out got away with one in Atlanta. That wasn't a superstar call. It was just an absolutely pathetic missed call. That's the first one that comes to my brain, and I remember that because I hate the Atlanta Falcons with a fire of 1,000 suns, and even I was like, you kind of got screwed in that one, all right? So, the question that
they won due to a block field goal. I mean, they won a bunch of different ways.
Look, I don't disagree.
But don't you want to be that team that knows how to win a bunch of different ways?
I'm giving you credit for that. Well, okay. I don't know that I'm handing you credit for winning because a kicker doinked. They lost, right? You were in a position to lose that game and sure. Should have lost that game.
For sure.
You didn't gut out a win against Atlanta. You got handed a win against Atlanta. That's just a flat-out fact.
I'm just not going to agree. It's not a flat-out fact.
It's a flat-out fact. It was a missed DPI. When I come to the defense of the Falcons.
Yeah, there are missed calls all over the place.
I don't disagree with that
You are just being
either.
Selective to make it look like that's the reason why they won.
No, that is the reason they won.
Nope.
That's a touchdown.
Nope.
That's a bona fide, certified, guaranteed touchdown. All of that being said, the question mark remains. If the Eagle defense and if the Eagle offense behind Saquon Barkley is right there with the Chiefs, hell, let's say in the fourth quarter, the Eagles have a one-score lead with 4 minutes to play, and it's a 75-yard drive to score. Can the Chiefs come up with explosive plays when they need to? Because we haven't really seen it yet. All right, we'll talk more Super Bowl when we come back. Your calls are welcome at 844-326-3663. So are your texts. The text poll is up. Chiefs, many, Chiefs, few, Eagles, many, Eagles, few. Who you got in Super Bowl LIX? Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. More rock reggae. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I will only risk one.
I vote we just change the tone of the song to rock reggae. I don't think that's going to go over.
Hopefully he's not watching. I will add.
That doesn't work for me,
I
brother.
will add things on occasion just to see if I get in trouble for them. Got to test your boundaries. You're not necessarily going against rules because there's an understanding.
Hey, I heard bass. I heard drums. I heard guitar.
And that fits this show more than probably any other show in the building. So. Yeah, the thing is, James, that wouldn't be considered an explosive play. An explosive play, I mean, what is an explosive play? Isn't that subjective? Isn't that an opinion? How many yards are involved in an explosive play? I don't know. So James brings up Mahomes breaking out a run for 20, 30 yards, something like that. Is that an explosive play? Can you define an explosive play to me? Because I think it's subjective and I think it's an opinion. Or do you have actual yards that you
statistical definition of an explosive play as the NFL tracks them is a run of 10 or more yards or a pass of 20 or more yards. Let's see here. I'm trying to find the exact form. I read a handful of days ago. Part of the reason I brought this conversation up was I read a couple of days ago that you can almost annually track playoff success with explosive play rate. Teams that have higher explosive play rates are usually the teams that can at least make the playoffs. Now, the significance and importance of the rate decreases once you're in the playoffs, but that's also because most of the teams in the playoffs have an explosive play rate.
Cole was texting me, so
you're good.
He was being self-deprecating, and I complimented him, and then he said, and after I picked the Eagles, and I said, it's okay to be wrong as long as you sound good doing it, because he's going to be wrong. Rod Brown.
Been called worse, buddy. Been called worse. All right. We were talking during the break. Buddy. I got to get the Pauly Shore. Buddy.
That one's not sarcastic, though. I mean, this one is sarcastic.
Buddy.
This one more fits the usage of the word on this show.
We were talking during the break on our live stream, which you can join at facebook.com/the Fan Upstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, search and subscribe, or the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We'd love to have you. We do all 4 hours of the show live. We were talking about the...
By the way, shout out to P1 Cole. We really appreciate you listening.
Shout out to P1 Cole. What a dog. What a guy. What a bro. We were talking about the concept of the explosive play. The context of the question was the Chiefs were not an explosive team. And Lonzo said, all right, I feel like it's subjective. Can you define an explosive play? And the answer is yes, for the way that the statistic of explosive play rate is tracked. An explosive play in the NFL is considered a run of over 10 yards or a pass of over 20 yards. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
So is that net, or is that, so if you pass for 5 yards, but it goes for 20?
That's an explosive play.
Okay.
Yes, that's an explosive play. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. I had them the other day, and I looked during the break, and I can't find where I put the numbers. I've lost my marbles. But I looked up the correlation of explosive play rates to rates of teams making the playoffs. And usually, not always, usually there's a pretty strong correlation between overall explosive play rate and playoff appearances. Not success in, but appearances in the playoffs. Let me give you a couple of numbers this year as far as the concept of the explosive plays and where these teams actually rate. Because I got to tell you, one of these numbers was somewhat surprising to me. The other one, not as much. When it comes to explosive plays in the run game, these are runs of 10 yards or more. And I do want you to keep in mind when we discuss these numbers that this is percentage of plays that result in an explosive play, which means that if you are a team that primarily rushes the ball, means you're likely going to have more plays per game than teams that, are passing and have a lot of 3 and outs, but have a higher explosive pass rate. It can kind of skew the statistics a little bit, but I do think explosive play rate, that is the average number of plays that you run that are considered explosive, is somewhat an indicator of how good your offense is. In the pass game, the explosive pass rate, the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams were tied for average explosive pass rate at 11%. At 10%, New England, Seattle, Cincinnati, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and Las Vegas all had a 10% explosive. Now, this is rounded. It's like 9.9, 9.7, 9.6, but all kind of in the same realm as far as explosive plays. I will also point out, for the sake of making sure that, because I think when you deal in numbers, making sure that all of the data, information, and variables are there. Sorry, that is absolutely correct. But hey, if you're going to diagnose football from a I know ball perspective, you kind of got to be a nerd a little bit, okay? That's just how the game works. One of the things that you must keep in mind when you do this, especially when you talk about teams like New England and the Las Vegas Raiders, for instance, these are teams that are regularly playing from behind in the fourth quarter. Why would so many bad teams show up in the explosive pass play rate? The answer is because for many of them, they are playing from behind in the fourth quarter. If you are playing from behind in the fourth quarter, not only are you throwing the ball primarily, but you are throwing the ball looking for chunks of yardage at a time. You have taken non-explosive plays out of the playbook at that point. You're pretty much exclusively looking for explosive plays, A, and B, the number of plays that you run is going to drop, meaning that you're throwing late in games and in mini games. You are throwing everything to be an explosive play and the number of plays that you run drops dramatically. So by default, your explosive play pass rate is not going to be as good of an indicator as your overall explosive play rate or your rushing explosive play rate. But Philadelphia explosive pass rate, 10%, Kansas City's 9%, but also with a dramatically lower number of plays run. So for all the talk that we've had about explosive plays, Kansas City and Philadelphia in the pass game are pretty close to each other in terms of explosivity. But I would chalk that up to Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts more so than the team versus the team. Because even if you are getting the best version of Jalen Hurts, which is a pretty good quarterback, I'm not putting him in the great category, but a pretty good quarterback, he's just not a quarterback that looks for explosive plays. He's a quarterback that wants to throw the quick underneath stuff. He wants to find A.J. Brown on the 7-yard in and let him work his yak daddy magic. And if it's not there, he's the guy that's going to take off and run until either he finds the underneath route or he just takes it himself. I think the explosive run rate is a little bit more interesting in terms of the importance here. The Philadelphia Eagles ran the ball 567 times. Their explosive play rate was 15%. The Kansas City Chiefs ran the ball 503 times. Sorry. I'm looking at old numbers. The explosive play rate for the Eagles on the ground was 15%. The explosive play rate for the Chiefs was closer to 9%, which means that out of any given 10 plays, the Eagles are going to have a 10-yard run. The Chiefs are going to have a 10-yard run effectively like once out of every 17 plays. Now you're talking in a Super Bowl, you're probably looking at 60 to 80 plays, depending on how it works out. If those numbers hold up in that spot, that means the Eagles are going to have the opportunity for something to the tune of 8 to 10 runs of 10 yards or more. The Chiefs are looking at it more like 4 to 5 runs of 10 yards or more. The setup says that the Philadelphia Eagles offense should have more success, but you have to flip it over on the defensive side as well in terms of defensive explosive plays allowed. In that category, and this is why I say, on paper, we don't play the game on paper. On paper, the Eagles win this game. On paper, it's a better roster. On paper, statistically, they have better stats. Everything on paper says the Chiefs win. In terms of defensive explosive plays allowed, the Chiefs and the Eagles are eerily similar. They both allow explosive plays at a clip of less than 7%. That means less than 1 out of 10 plays allowed by both teams is an explosive play. They limit offenses from gaining big chunks of yardage at a time. So it's a level playing field on defense, which means we can dial in on the offense. And offensively, the Philadelphia Eagles have been a more explosive, when defined as explosive plays, runs of 10 yards or longer, passes of 20 yards or longer. The Eagles have been the more explosive team in both aspects of the game. On paper, the Eagles win the football game. My question is, and that goes back to my question from the last segment, which is, are the Chiefs incapable of being explosive? They are just a grounded out team, and that's just what they're going to become, hell or high water. Or have they held themselves back from being explosive this year? Because the rate's just not there. And the reason I ask that question is this. We had Hayton Asmaria on the show. He said a key to the game was, I talked with, though we didn't have him on the air this week, I did a segment on Denton Day's show a couple of days ago. We had the same conversation. He had the same agreement with Mario. Brad Evans and Ryan Horvat on BetMGM tonight both had the same concept. All of us have agreed on one thing, and it is this. If the Eagles want to win this game, they've got to get up early, even if it's one score. If they want to win this game, they need to, if they get the ball first, they need to score on the opening play, or excuse me, on the opening drive. If they get the ball second, they have to match if Kansas City scores, preferably outdo whatever. Because what they have to have happen is they have to stay out front of a slugfest and create a game in which the Chiefs have their backs against the wall late and have their backs against the wall late in a situation where they must create explosive plays. They can't be in a spot where there's 4 minutes left, the Eagles are up 7, the Chiefs need 70 yards, because in a 4-minute offense, they can dink and dunk their way down the field. They can grind Kareem. Mahomes can do Mahomes things. They can dink and dunk their way down the field. And they are, whether you think it's because of the refs or not, they are the most successful clutch fourth quarter team in the NFL for 5 years in a row now. But if there's a situation where the Chiefs are down 10 with 4 minutes to play and they have to score twice, or they're down 7, but there's a minute and a half left to play and they got a minute and a half to go 75 yards. Now they have to be explosive. They have to pick up chunks, which is something that they haven't done this year. Whether it's because they can't or they haven't had to, we will find out in the fourth quarter, but the Eagles need to grab a lead early, and hold that lead to push Kansas City against the wall and make them be explosive. If they can, they're winning the Super Bowl. If they can't, the Eagles got a shot. When we come back, Lonzo and I go on the record with our Super Bowl LIX picks. That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Stop being so needy, Kang. We can't respond to everything.
No. Well, okay. In fairness, one of the questions you asked was, who are the people downstairs and what is wrong with them? How would you like me to answer that question, King?
Yeah, I mean,
how would you like me to answer the question, who are the people downstairs and what is wrong with them? Because the people downstairs, they watch the stream.
Yeah, I don't care. You're not the only one that hasn't been addressed. When Rob was doing his thing, he can't just suddenly go, oh, let's stop what I'm doing and look at the stream. Being addressed right now, I mean, come on.
I got you, dog. You're P1. I got you. But I can't ask the question, or I can't answer the question, what's wrong with my bosses who sign my paychecks? Nothing. They're amazing. I love them. They're perfect in every way, shape, and form. And if I haven't said, very, very handsome.
Love the wardrobe, too. The wardrobe's very...
I will say I do like Steve's wardrobe. Yeah. Steve's big into like the over-the-top floral pattern shirts. And the only thing that frustrates me about it is...
It's nostalgic. At least
I can't roll up in here now wearing over-the-top floral pattern shirts without looking like a kiss ass. But, Steve, you're amazing, and I love your shirts.
No one would ever think that of you.
No. Because I'm not one.
Didn't say you were.
My baby takes the morning train.
Are you okay?
No.
You just started singing Sheena Easton. And it took me a moment to remember her name. I was a big Sheena Easton fan until she got mixed up with Prince, and then she just totally changed who she was after that.
He was.
Then she was singing about her sugar
9
walls.
to 5, and then he takes another home again to find me waiting. Okay, there's a reason. That song was in the movie Euro Trip, and Diesel sent me an Instagram reel this morning from Euro Trip with that song in it, and it's been stuck in my head ever since.
I would say, oh, isn't that sweet? But that's kind of weird.
No, it's not. I told you. What did I say yesterday? The ultimate mark of being bros is sharing social media posts with each other. You and I do it too. It's just on Twitter. Diesel's on Instagram.
I have the Instagram. I just don't use it.
Exactly.
Because for me, the Instagram's for pictures.
Here we go. The final segment of the radio broadcast goes now. Rob the Great One Lonzo.
Aren't you glad I'm not that guy? That guy who would be playing, how about those Chiefs over and over again? Because I could be doing that right now.
You could, but
Yeah.
I don't think you're the guy who does it pregame. I think you're the guy who does it postgame with a dub.
I will.
And for the record, so am I. I do not talk bleep pregame. I talk it postgame.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I believe the team's going to win. We're going to pick here in a minute. I obviously, you know what I'm going to pick. But am I nervous about it? Absolutely, I'm nervous about it. And normally, watching Chiefs game, I'm not nervous because of this entire season but it's the Super Bowl. It's totally different.
Let's go with this, Great One. Let's begin our official picks, Licks picks segment. Oh, that was right there the whole time. I could have been saying Licks picks the whole time.
Wow.
Send us your Licks picks. We love a good Licks picks on the text line.
No. Well, they can't send pictures on the text line, so we're good.
We love a good Licks picks. All right, send us all your Licks picks.
No, and stop.
I want the people to participate.
Do you want pictures of dudes like licking a football? Is that what you want?
No, it's Super Bowl Licks. I want their Licks picks. All right. Send us your Licks picks to 844-326-3663. We're looking for your Licks picks. So, Lonzo, over the course of 3 broadcasting hours on the Fan Upstate, we received 140 unique votes in our poll. Who you got? You had 4 options. Chiefs by a lot, Chiefs by a few, Eagles by a lot, or Eagles by a few. We got 140 responses on the text line. Here's how they broke down. Great one. 2 votes for Chiefs by a lot. Out of 140, 2 votes for Chiefs by a lot. Out of 140, 89 of them said Chiefs by a few. We had 30 for Eagles by a few, and the rest were for Eagles by a lot. So the overwhelming the overwhelming majority of you who voted on our text poll this AM said that Chiefs by a few is the most likely outcome. And that seems to be the common consensus right now, is that it's and I'm talking about I was looking this morning and ESPN had compiled all of their personalities picks into one list. and then they broke them down by those who picked the Chiefs and then put them in descending order of totals in scores. And
hey, would you bring me one of those back?
Beignet from Café Du
It
Monde?
probably wouldn't be that good. If it's been a couple days.
you eat them when you order them, or you don't eat them.
Okay, because I'm never going to make it there to actually eat a genuine one.
You should.
Eh,
New Orleans, Louisiana, baby.
it doesn't appeal to me. So because it's all about the party, and we know that I don't
it's
do
not.
that sort of thing.
That is the unfortunate.
It's also all about the beads.
Misconception. The beads are for Mardi Gras. That ends March 6th, and then they go away for a year.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're like prevalent in the cultural images, but
also not a voodoo guy. So I mean,
again, it turns out, and I know this for a fact, you do not have to practice voodoo to visit New Orleans. You can just go there and enjoy one of America's great cultural landmarks and centers, of which it definitely is. So the overwhelming majority of America is picking the Chiefs, and they are picking the Chiefs by a little, within or right at the spread. Okay. So here's our final lines on the game. The total in this game is at 48.5 points as of today. I have told you a couple of times, I believe that number is going to be closer to, and I think at this point, I'm going to land on an even 50 by the time that we kick off. I am holding off, and I am playing. If it gets to 50, I will play the under in the game. I will consider a 49.5. I'd rather have the 50 in the push in play. But right now it's 48.5. The Chiefs are favored by 1.5 points. They are -1.5 favorite, -120 on the money line, -105 on the spread. The juice on the line of +1.5 to the Eagles is at -115. So what they are saying with the Chiefs being -105 at -1.5 and the Eagles being +1.5 is that it is more likely that the Eagles cover +1.5 than the Chiefs cover -1.5. That's not an outright win, because remember, a 1-point Chiefs win would still be an Eagles spread winner. So the belief in Vegas is that the Eagles will at least be within 1 point of the Kansas City Chiefs, if not outright win it, on the money line, which means just betting the outright winner. The Chiefs are -120. The Eagles are even money, which means to me that even though, Lonzo, I think there is a very good chance this is absolutely a 1-point game. I think it's a very good chance this is a 1-point game. Even if this is a 1-point game, my suggestion would be, if you think the Chiefs are going to win, go ahead and take the -105 and risk the 0.5 point doing you in. If you believe the Eagles are going to win, go ahead, or are going to win the game, go ahead and take the money line at even money. Zoe, it is time to go on the record and show our licks picks.
Okay, so I do believe that there's going to be a lot of running in this game, and it's going to go by pretty quick. And that's not self-serving. I really think that it's going to go by pretty quick. My final score is the Chiefs 28, the Eagles 24.
28-24.
And of course, the Chiefs win on a go-ahead touchdown with like 20 seconds left in the game.
Is there controversy?
I hope so. I really do hope so.
Lonzo wants to come in here and
I would love that they won. That they score a touchdown, but there's a missed call. Yeah, I want that to happen. Just so all the people who are saying it's the refs thing. So I want more fuel for them. Because what else are they going to do the rest of the year?
What else are they going to do the rest of the year?
Give them at least a couple more weeks of being able to hate, and then they'll have to go find something else to do.
If they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. 50 Cent. Okay, so Lonzo's going 28-24. The Kansas City Chiefs cover the spread and the over hits in this game. The over hits, according to the great one, with a total of 52. That would be the over even, I think, after the casual drive of the money up. Zoe, I am going to ride with you on this one in a Kansas City win. However, I am going with a lower total, and I am going with a closer game. I am going to go the Kansas City Chiefs win this game 17-14 when it's all said and done. I think this is a low-scoring, defensively driven game. I agree with you that it is going to be a run-heavy game on both sides of the football, and I agree with you that this may be the fastest Super Bowl of all time. Genuinely, this might be the fastest the Super Bowl's ever played, at least in the modern era of football. I think this Super Bowl could genuinely check in. And I'm not including like halftime show and commercials and all that, but I think this Super Bowl, in terms of actual minutes of broadcasted gameplay, I think the Super Bowl could be like under 2 hours. I think they fly through this game because I think both teams are going to run the ball 30 times.
I think it's going to be, what do you mean we're at halftime already? Yeah. I think somebody's going to have to go grab Kendrick Lamar off the bus and be like, hey, bud, it's time. Zoe, the MVP of Super Bowl LIX will be. All right. So I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. I mean, it's easy to go with Patrick Mahomes. It's easy to go with Saquon Barkley if it's on that side. I'm going to go with George Karlaftis. I think he is really stood out, especially in the playoffs, and I think he's due for an even bigger game. And I think Jalen Hurts needs to look out.
It's a long shot bet, buddy. It's a long shot bet.
I mean, all the attention is going to be on someone else.
Listen, Chris. That's not unfair. I really don't have an issue with that pick. I am going to go chalk here. I am going to say it's Patrick Mahomes. Listen, the NFL has made Patrick Mahomes the face of the league. That's not a question mark. That is a statement. If the Kansas City Chiefs win, even if it's a low-scoring game, 17-14, Mahomes is going to do something special because that's Mahomes. Mahomes doing something special is going to become your one shining moment montage of the three-peat. And considering Mahomes is the face of the league at a point in time where somebody in the league is doing something nobody in the league's ever done before, they got to make the face the face. Patrick Mahomes is your MVP. Zoe's going 28-24 Kansas City. I'm going 17-14 in a low-scoring game. He's got George Karlaftis. I've got Patrick Mahomes as your MVP. We'll break it down on Monday.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, time to hit this thing really quick. The first thing that's axing is Gamecocks.
Really? I do know that the Gamecocks got another way. Golly, that basketball team improved dramatically from their win over, and of course, I'm talking about the women's team. Their win over Auburn was kind of ugly down the stretch. They went into Georgia and just, or I should say, Georgia came into Columbia and got punked by the Gamecocks. I don't know if that's why they're trending.
That's not why. The NFL's latest Hall of Famer is the very first Gamecock to go into the NFL Hall of Fame, and that would be Sterling Sharp.
Yes, Sterling Sharp getting in as one of the 4 members. Sterling Sharp, remember, was a legacy nominee. He didn't get in on the old school ballot. He had to get in as a legacy member, but Sterling Sharp goes in and is the first South Carolina Gamecock in. How about that? Congrats to Sterling Sharp.
All right, trying to figure out where to go here. Do I want to make you angry or do I want to make you laugh?
Who cares?
All right, let's go with the next thing that's Xing is big balls.
I could take so many stabs in the dark, but I feel like they would just make Lonzo uncomfortable. So,
well, any more uncomfortable than me saying that on the air?
Fair.
Or actually clicking it?
It's because
I clicked it. It's like,
it's because look at you with the risky click.
Do I do this or not?
The risk it, click it. It is because AC/DC has re-released one of the greatest songs of all time.
No, it has to do with it's a character from South Park, and it has to do with Elon Musk. It doesn't. I mean,
noted video game cheater, Elon Musk.
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, I guess. All right, the next thing that's Xing is Canelo Alvarez.
Okay, I actually know why this one's trending. It is because yesterday, for about 10 minutes, Rob Brown was about to pay for a Jake Paul fight because he was going to get in with Canelo Alvarez. Listen, I'm going to say this. And the fight's off, by the way. Alvarez
No,
booked
it's
it.
not.
Yes, it is.
No.
They called it off this morning. Canelo Alvarez has booked a real fight. So unless they've rebooked that fight in the last hour, that fight's off.
I thought it was still excellent and still happening.
Canelo Alvarez and Jake Paul agreed to a fight. That fight was on for about 2 hours, and then Alvarez got an actual boxing fight for an actual boxing title and walked out of the Jake Paul fight. Or Jake Paul just lied and said they had agreement to get attention. Either way, I was going to watch that fight, and I'll tell you why. Because one of two things was going to happen.
You're finally going to get what you wanted.
One of two things was going to happen. Either A, I was going to finally get what I wanted, and Canelo Alvarez would have destroyed Jake Paul. Destroyed, not beat. I mean, possibly put that man into a special kind of hospital. Or it would have been a competitive fight, and I would have, and I'm not being sarcastic, I would never have watched boxing again until it got back to what it used to be. I would have been done with a sport that I have loved for 40 years.
Wow, not yet. I don't think you loved it out
because
of the womb,
Canelo
but maybe
Alvarez
you
went, I can actually fight a real boxing match. Okay.
All right, and the final thing that is Xing, and it's appropriate, rigged.
The people has spoken. I'm just saying, the NFL better make a damn sure.
When I looked it up, it showed the NFL, it showed the NBA, and it showed politics. So you pick whichever one you want.
That's also fair. NFL better make damn sure the officiating is as close to perfect as it can be on Sunday.
Go Chiefs.
On Sunday, we'll find out. Hey, that's it for us. Enjoy Super Bowl LIX, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday to break the whole thing down, top to bottom, left to right, up and down. Have a wonderful weekend. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you with a face. See you back here Monday to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Later.
Hell no. Yuck.
By the way, Kane, I was just joking. We appreciate you listening. And sometimes my delivery sometimes comes a little more harsh than that's intentional.
You guys, I can't film in our office because he just sits back there and screams at me.
You've only heard me scream once, I think, and that was during D&D, and it scared everyone half to death. It was well worth it, though. By the way, I screamed this morning because this is stream exclusive. I'm walking down the steps. It's very dark. I had a rake leaning against the stairs. And, well, no, thank God that didn't happen because I wouldn't be here right now. But it fell in front of me, and I screamed. I did. It was a jump scare you would not have recovered from. It took me a while. I had to listen to Piano in the Dark and stuff like that on the way in to calm my chest still was sore. It scared me that bad because every dream you've ever had of a horror film of a hand reaching out, it fell perfectly right in front of me. And I thought it was a hand. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is how I go. And it was like there were like 3 steps left. So I probably wouldn't have hurt myself too bad, but it got me good.
Like Sideshow Bob. All right, y'all. I got a jet because my home Wi-Fi is messed up and my wife's trying to work from home, so I get to go help her out. Thanks for being here. You're all wonderful people. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get rich and famous. Enjoy the Super Bowl. See you back here on Monday to break it all down.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.